بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وأشرف الخلق أجمعين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين
upon his pure and immaculate household, upon his chosen companions and those who follow them until the day of judgment. The issue of Palestine is still the most important and active issue for the Islamic community. The policies of the oppressive and cruel capitalism has driven a people from their homes, from their homeland, and also their ancestral rules. And instead, it has put in place a terrorist regime, and it housed comprised of outsiders. You can never find any weaker reason than the establishment of the Zionist regime, any weaker logic. Europeans claimed during the Second World War that the Europeans oppressed the Jews during the Second World War, so they believe that they have to take revenge by rendering certain people refugees in West Asia by committing horrible crimes in that country. This is the logic that the Western governments, with on the back of their wholehearted and blind support for the Zionist regime, they have stuck to this, and in this way all their false claims about human rights and democracy, they have disproved them all. And this ridiculous and at the same time tragic story has been going on for 70 years, and every now and then they add a new chapter. Well, the Zionists, since the very first day, they turned the occupied Palestine into a terrorist bastion. Israel is not a country, it's a barracks, it's a bastion of a terrorist camp against the Palestinian people and also other Muslim nations. Fighting this despotic regime means fighting oppression and terrorism, and this is a collective responsibility. So there is a point that is noteworthy, and that's despite the fact that the occupying regime was established in 1948, but the ground for grabbing and occupying the sensitive Islamic region had already been prepared years before that. Now, those years coincide with the active intervention of the Western countries and Islamic states in order to establish secularism and excessive and blind nationalism, and also it had the goal of installing and putting in place oppressive governments that were controlled by the West. So when you study those events in Iran, in Turkey, and Arab countries from West Asia to North Africa, then it reveals this bitter truth that weakness and disunity in the Islamic community set the stage for the occupation of Palestine. And this was a blow that was delivered onto the Islamic community by the world of arrogance. Now, we draw a lesson from this, that at that time, both camps of capitalism and communism, they entered a collusion with Zionists, Karons. It was the English, they masterminded the main plot, and the Zionist capitalists, they performed it, they executed it on the back of their money and weaponry, and the Soviet Union was the first government that recognized the establishment of the illegitimate regime and then dispatched crowds of Jews to that region. The usurper regime was actually an outcome of that situation in the world of Islam, and also this European plot and scheme, an invasion and transgression on the other hand. That was the result of these two phenomena. Now, today, things have changed. It's not the same as those days. We have to keep this in mind, this fact that today we see the balance of power tilted toward the world of Islam. A host of social and political incidents happened both in the U.S. and in Europe, and they revealed the weaknesses in the deep structural and managerial and moral conflicts and the issues of the Westerners. Now, what happened during the U.S. election and also the scandalous failures and ordeal of its arrogant managers, and also the one-year unsuccessful battle against the COVID pandemic in the U.S. and Europe, and also the embarrassing things that happened on the sidelines, on top of the recent political and social chaos in the most important European countries. They're all indicative of the downward movement of the Western camp and its collapse. On the other hand, you see the growth of the resistance forces in the most sensitive Islamic regions. You see the development of their defensive and offensive capabilities, the growth of self-awareness, motivation and hope in Muslim nations, and also a tendency toward Islam and Quranic slogans, growth of independence, growth of self-reliance in peoples. They're all auspicious signs and signals for a better future. Now, in such future, we need to see cooperation and synergy among the Islamic State. That should be the main goal, and that does not seem to be so far-fetched. So the axis or the pivot for this is the issue of Palestine. That's the entirety of the whole country and the destiny of the Holy Quds. This is the very same fact that Imam Khamenei's heart was led to declare International Quds Day on the last Friday of the month of Ramadan. So synergy among the Muslims and their convergence around the axis of the Holy Quds is a nightmare for the Zionists and also for their U.S. and European backers. The botched project called the Deal of Century, and later on the efforts to normalize relations between a few weak Arab states with the Zionist regime. There were some of the desperate attempts that were made in order to just get away from that nightmare. So I'm telling you here confidently that these attempts will not get anywhere. The downward movement and collapse of the Zionist enemy has just started. It will not stop. So there are two factors determining the course of the future. First of all, it's the constant resistance, non-stop resistance inside Palestinian land, and also the boosting of the line of jihad and martyrdom. And second, it's global support by governments and Muslim nations across the world. Their support for the Palestinian Mujahideen. All of us, officials, intellectuals, scholars, political parties, the groups, our youth, and also people from all walks of life, they need to try and find their own spot and situation and position in this public movement and play our own part. This is what would nullify the enemy's deception, and God has promised this. God says that today intend a plot, but those who defy Allah are themselves involved in a plot. This is what God says. And Allah has full power and control of His affairs, but most mankind do not follow. And that's the end of the Farsi speech. So allow me to address Arab youths in Arabic. In the name of God, the compassionate and merciful, greetings upon all the freedom-loving individuals in the Arab world, particularly the Arab youths, and also greetings upon the people of Palestine, the resistant people of Palestine, and also those, the custodians of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Greetings be upon the martyrs of resistance, and also those who struggled in the path of God, those who put their lives on their line, especially martyr Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, and also martyr Abbas Musavi, martyr Fatih Sharabi, martyr Imad Mughniya, martyr Abdulaziz Rentisi, and martyr Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. And also the most prominent figure among the martyrs of the resistance, martyr Hassan Soleimani. Even after their fruitful and blessed life on the back of their martyrdom, each of these personalities left a huge impact on the resistance. Well, the struggle endeavors of the Palestinians and the pure blood of the martyrs of resistance, they have been able to hold up this flag high, and also to raise the internal power of the Palestinian struggle multiple times. So one day we see Palestinian youth, they used to defend themselves, they threw stones at one time. The very same Palestinian youths who used to throw stones, one day, today, they are standing against the enemy by attacking and using precision-guided missiles. Palestine and Quds, it has been described in the Holy Quran as the Holy Land. Quran is calling the Quds the Holy Land of Palestine. It's been for 10 years now that the most malicious and wicked human beings, they have been occupying this pure land. They are the devils. They are devils who shed the blood of honorable, noble men, and then they admit to it with full shamelessness. They are racists. They are racists who have harassed the people. For more than 7 years, they have harassed the real owners of the land. They have murdered them. They have looted. They have imprisoned. They have tortured them. But thankfully, and thank God, they have not been able to break their willpower and determination. Palestine is alive. It's going on with its struggle with jihad. It will eventually overcome the wicked enemy on the back of God's assistance. The Holy Quds and the entire Palestine, I mean the entire Palestine, it belongs to people in Palestine. And those who will hopefully regain their position again will go back home, as God has promised. All Muslim states and nations, they are all, it's incumbent upon all of them to have a struggle as the pivot of their activities. It's now almost 14 million people inside, and outside Palestine we have 14 million Palestinians. And the willpower, the unity, the willpower of these people will really work miracles if they work together. So the Palestinian unity, the enemies of the Palestinian unity are the Zionist regime, the United States, and also some other political powers. But if this unity is not shattered from within the Palestinian society, then extrinsic enemies will not be able to do a damn thing. Now the axis and the pivot of this unity must be a national jihad or struggle and lack of trust in the enemy. Now the main enemies of the Palestinians, the arch enemy of the Palestinians are the United States, Britain, the wicked Zionists. They should not be used as a source of support for Palestinian politics. So all Palestinians, I mean those Palestinians in Gaza and Quds, in the West Bank, in the year 1948, those who live in the lands of 1948, and even those living in refugee camps, all of them constitute one single people, one single unit, and they should adopt the strategy of working together and coordination. Every sector, every part should defend another part, and they should utilize some other tools at their disposal anytime, whatever they have at disposal, anytime they're under pressure. So today, the hope of achieving victory is stronger than ever. Today, the balance is tilted in favor of the Palestinians. The Zionist enemy has become weaker year after year. The Zionist army that used to describe itself the army which will never be defeated, not today, after the 33-day war in Lebanon and also the 22-day experiences they went through, and the 8-day wars also, what happened in Gaza, now they have turned into an army that will never gain victory. Now, as for this political situation, it's been forced to hold 4 elections in 2 years. Also in terms of the security, it has had to face defeat. The increasing desire among Jews to immigrate also has become a source of embarrassment for the Zionist regime. Well, they have tried hard to normalize relations with of course, on the back with the assistance of the United States, they have tried to normalize relations with a few Arab states. This is a sign of a decline of that regime, and of course, this will not help them. This will not benefit them in any way. 10 years ago, they started relations with Egypt, but since then, the Zionist enemy has become much weaker and much more vulnerable. Therefore, through the normalization of relations with a few weak and mean and little states, they will not be able to benefit from anything. So those countries will not benefit from their relations with the Zionists either. The Zionist regime will transgress against their financial resources, their land, and it will promote occupation and security in those countries. These are the facts, these are the truth that should not make others forget about their hefty responsibility. So, Muslim and Christian scholars, they need to announce as forbidden the act of normalization from a religious perspective. Also, intellectuals and freedom-seeking individuals should explain to everyone the result of this treason, which is a stab in the back of Palestinians. And then, contrary to the downward movement of and the collapse of the Zionist regime, you see the rise and the boost in the capabilities of the resistance camp, which is a sign of bright future. You see a boost in their defensive and military power. You're witness to self-sufficiency. They're making weapons that work. They are also boosting their self-confidence. They are raising awareness among the youth and they are extending the resistance circle to the entire country, inside Palestine and outside. And the recent uprising by the Palestinian youths defending the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the simultaneous promotion of the Palestinian nation's spirit of jihad and struggle and innocence among the public opinion in many parts of the world. This is what we see recently. And they all give us the omen, a very good omen. So the logic behind the Palestinian cause, that Iran has raised at the United Nations documents. We have this proposal to hold a national referendum in Palestine. We put forward on November 1st, 2019. This is a progressive and attractive logic that Palestinian warriors can bring up the idea of holding this referendum in which the Palestinians should take part. And then this referendum will be the thing that will determine the political system of the country. And then the main participants from all should be from all ethnic groups and tribes and all of faiths. They should all participate in it, all the Palestinians. And this novel political system will bring back the expatriates, the refugees, and will determine the fate of foreigners living there. So this is the demand that is based on the common democracy that the whole world accepts, and that no one can doubt, no one can question it being progressive. Palestinian fighters, they need to continue their legitimate and moral fight against the usurper regime, as long as the regime is forced to give in to their demand. So move forward in the name of God, and you should know that Allah will certainly aid those who aid His cause. That's Holy Quran. Greetings be upon you and Allah's mercy. That's the end of the speech.